write the word unit multipliers. In the real world, and I don't know if even in any other mathematics books they call it unit multipliers. I don't know what they might call them. They might call them conversion fractions. Conversion fractions, I don't know. But what a unit multiplier is nothing more than a fraction of mixed measurements that equals 1. I'm going to let you write that down because then we've got some interesting topics to discuss here. See if this makes any sense to you whatsoever. By the way, if you understand this and get the gist of this, this is probably the single most helpful thing that will, in your life, not just in math, but in science as well. You figure this out. I'm sure Mrs. Stone's probably talked about it, but it's not an easy thing, but it's not a hard thing either. Now, the first thing we have to talk about is this. Anytime you know, if you have an equal thing over an equal thing in math, like 8 over 8, you know that that equals 1, right? Correct? Okay, we're kind of jumping from numbers into measurements that would equal 1. For example, and it's mixed measurements, if I have 60 minutes, and I put another unit of measurement on the bottom that's the same as 60 minutes, 60 minutes is the same as 1 hour, this is what we call a unit multiplier. Two different units of measurement that are the same, that when you make a fraction out of them, they equal 1. And every unit multiplier has a reverse of it. If you put 1 hour, you can also put 60 minutes on the bottom. Okay, but it doesn't have to deal with time, it can deal with weight. You can tell me that 1 pound over what? How many ounces are in a pound? 1 pound over 16 ounces would be another unit multiplier, or 16 ounces over 1 pound. You could do units of volume. This would be a bunch of things. What if I had a gallon on top? If I had a gallon on top, what could I put on the bottom that would make a fraction equal to 4 quarts? Or
8 pints.
8 pints. Anybody else got one?
15 cups.
Oh, look at you. You got Mr. Gallon over there somewhere you're looking at? Is it up there? It is. You sly kids, you. Okay. All of these are unit multipliers. You could have this. What about this? 365 days over 1 year. Okay. Or the flip-flop. All of them have their reverses. I'm not going to bother writing all those down. You could have this. You could have 100 cents over $1. Different units of measurement that equal the same thing. Now, why are we talking about unit multipliers? Okay, because we are going to use these to convert measurements. Okay, and for those of you, how many of you have ever, if I said change 33 yards to feet, if I told you to change 33 yards to feet, how many of you know that there's 3 feet in a yard, but don't know for sure if you would multiply by 3 or divide by 3? 33 feet in a yard, or 33 yards, and I asked you how many feet that is. How many of you have ever gotten confused with whether you multiply or divide? Raise your hand, because I know I have. Okay, thank you very much. For you to say that you never have is probably somewhat of you mistelling the truth. If you do unit multipliers, you will never, ever, ever get confused with that ever again in your life. Okay, but the biggest part of unit multipliers is this. You are looking to cross cancel, and here's the big word, does cancel have two L's or one? You are looking to cross cancel this, labels. And that's where children run into trouble because they don't like to label things. But unit multiplier has to be labeled, otherwise you have it. So here, let me give you that question I just asked. I believe I said 33 yards equals how many feet? And I know some of you know the answer, probably most of you know the answer. Okay. Here's how unit multipliers work. It's kind of a pretty simple problem here. The first thing you do is put the given measurement over 1, which means make a fraction out of it. I am given 33 yards, so step number 1, I'm going to make it 33 yards over 1. And here is pretty much the rest of it in a nutshell. The second thing you need to do is you need to multiply that by the unit multiplier that has both measurements in it so that labels cross out. You won't catch that until we actually do this. That would be the wording of it. You are going to multiply this by a unit multiplier that has both of these labels in it so that the labels will cross, the label that you want to go away crosses out. Now you know about cross canceling. Here's the beauty of this. In order for yards to cross off with something, where does yards have to be in this fraction, on top or on the bottom? On the bottom, because it's always a bottom that crosses off with the top. So the unit multiplier that I'm going to use has to have yards on the bottom, and it has to have the one I want on top. So I already know what labels I need there, I just need to fill in the blanks as to what this unit multiplier is. What is your feet to yards or yards to feet conversion thing? Is there 3 feet in a yard or 3 yards in a foot? There are 3 feet in 1 yard. This is our unit multiplier that equals 1, does it not? There are 3 feet in 1 yard if I went back there. Are you with me there? So what happens when I do the math? The label yards crosses off because it's a top and a bottom equal thing. And I am left with 33 times 3, which is 99, and my label that's left here is feet. I didn't have to think about whether I multiply or divide because this already told me to multiply. If the 3 would have been down here, then it's division. 33 divided by 3, but it wasn't because of where it was. Multiplied by the unit multiplier that has both measurements in it, so labels will cross out. And that is the whole unit multiplier thing there. And it works with anything, that's the nice thing. It doesn't have to be feet, it could be inches, it could be miles, it could be whatever. As long as you know the ratio, the conversion fraction, you'll be good. After we do a few, you'll be like, yeah, this is a piece of cake. Can I change this? What do we still need here? Let's see what the book asks a question. How about this? 270 minutes to hours. Okay, here is the gist. 270 minutes to hour. I take what I'm given and put it over 1 to make it a fraction. So it ends up being, and you have to put the labels down, 270 minutes over 1 Now is where I figure out what my unit multiplier is. Well, where I know my unit multiplier has to have minutes and hours in it. So in your mind, you already know there's how many minutes in an hour. 60, because that's going to come in handy here. Where does minutes have to go? Minutes have to go on the bottom because the label has to cross off. Hours has to go on top. And I know there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. This is what we call our unit multiplier, our conversion fraction. And the beauty of this is this. Minutes cross off because it's the same thing on top as on bottom. If I multiply across here, I end up with 270 times 1 over 1 times 60. Okay, there's a bunch of different ways you can do this. And that's how many hours. I just need to simplify this. How could I simplify this quickly? Anybody? Divide them both by 10, which means these zeros go away. And then what? 3 goes into both of them, so I can reduce it down to 9 over 2, and then change that to a mixed number. It would be how many hours? 4 1/2 hours. 270 minutes is 4 1/2 hours. Sound of astonishment there? Maybe not. How about this one? Here's one out of the book. It says that there are 16 ounces in a pint. 16 ounces equals 1 pint. Okay, if you have, it says convert 128 ounces to pints. So they give you all the information you need there. What does that look like? Well, you take 128 ounces and put it over 1, correct? What is my unit multiplier over here going to look like? Somebody tell me. Knowing this, I'm putting that over here. How does it have to be? Remember, you got to get ounces to cross off, Sammy Spaniel. So, 1 pint on top and 16 ounces. Why ounces on the bottom? Because you want these two labels to cross cancel. And then that pretty much will get you the answer because the labels cross off. You're left with the label pint, which is what your answer should be in, pints. Now what do I do with the 128 and 16? If you multiply these two fractions together, you get 128 over 16. But that's not simplified. What's the best way to go about that? Michael, what would you do? You can do it any one of a number of ways. You can either just do it as a division problem right off the bat, or you could reduce it and divide. Alright, so you would say, okay, I'm going to take 16 and divide it into 128. How many times does 16 go into 128? 8 times, I believe. So your answer would be 8 times. Now you could have cut them both in half, and this would be 64 over 8. If you cut them both in half again, you get 32 over 4. Cut them both in half again, 16 over 2. Cut them both in half again, you get 8 over 1, but you'll still get 8 no matter what. Alright, let's try one more. I'll give you this one here. Convert 24 quarts to gallons, knowing that there are 4 quarts equals 1 gallon. And I need to see, even if you know the answer to that, I need to see the unit multiplier work, simply because they get so much more difficult, and this is not something you're just going to be able to say, oh, I know the answer is that too. On this one you can, but when they get hard, not so much. So show me the money. Show me the unit multiplier work there. Conversion fraction. I need to see the conversion fraction. Conversion fractions, you cannot go wrong. Answers out there somewhere. Evan says
6 gallon.
6 gallons. Let's see. This was what you were given, right? 24 quarts. You put that over 1.
Yes.
You multiply it by, this is your conversion. Quarts and gallons here. 4 quarts, 1 gallon. Quarts cross off. 24 times 1 is 24. Over 4, which is 6 gallons. By the way, you could cross, you could reduce right here if you wanted. 2 goes into 4 twice, and do 24 12 times, and 6 over 1. Either way, you're going to get 6 gallons. Now, they're also going to ask you this question here. Let's see if you can figure this out. What if it asked you an hour and 45 minutes is how many hours? 1 hour 45 minutes is how many? Now this isn't really a unit multiplier thing. I guess it is. I suppose it is. You could use unit multipliers. Except you're given a mixed measurement here. You already know that you have 1 hour, right? You want to know 45 minutes. If you make 45 minutes an hour, what is that? Well, you could use unit multipliers. 45 minutes over 1. What's my unit multiplier? Minutes have to go on bottom, correct? Hours on top. What do I put next to what here? How many minutes in an hour? 60 minutes in 1 hour. So you're going to end up with the fraction what? 45 over 60, correct? Divide by 15, you get 3/4. So your choice is, you could leave it as a fraction and your answer would be 1 3/4 of an hour. Or you could put it in decimal form, which would be 1.75 of an hour. That's what this changed into hours would be. It gets a little goofy, but hey, goofy is as goofy.